A good day to everyone. I'll be presenting my paper's lessons for long-term recovery from the experiences of the Philippines. Next slide, please. I think everyone can recall during the time of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, from year 2017 to 2022, the Philippine government has embarked on a massive, robust infrastructure programs that aims to accelerate infrastructure development, increase the productive capacity of the economy, generate more jobs, and strengthen the investment climate of the country that leads towards a sustainable and inclusive growth. Next slide, please. The infrastructure flagship projects that accounts to a total of 119 projects in 6 sectors, and these are actually classified into 3 cluster groups. One is the transport and mobility that constitutes 76 infrastructure flagship projects. This involve the constructions, maintenance, and operations of the seaport, airport, railways, roads, and bridges. Second is the urban development and disaster resilience cluster group that accounts to 15 infrastructure flagship projects, which involve rehabilitations and recovery of Marawi City, the flood control structures, constructions, and the risk reductions and earthquake resiliency program. And the last cluster group is the water resources, the power, energy, ICT, and health sectors. These actually account a total of about 18 flagship projects for the country. Now, next slide, please. In these administrations of President Bongbong Marcos Jr., he made an explicit commitment that the program started way back in the past administrations has to be sustained and expanded to ensure a more collaborative and sustainable infrastructures that the country, Philippines, needs. He even launched the Build Better More program, which account to an inclusions of the sectors on agriculture, tourism, and education. Next slide, please. In the Philippine infrastructure spending to GDP ratio, in 2023, it accounts to 5.4%, which is actually a massive targets for this year, and a 2028 6.3% ratio from infrastructure spending to GDP. Next slide, please. You could see the 2023 budget of the Philippine government, especially for the Department of Public Works and Highways, constitute around 780 billion pesos, of which 20% of this, both program and unprogrammed budget, are actually aligned to ODA-funded projects. Out of this, 20%, or about 54 billion pesos, is actually attributed to flood control and mitigations projects, inclusive of the disaster reductions program. We have actually experiences during the height of the pandemic, 3 major typhoons that accounts to a massive infrastructure damages also. But luckily, next slide please, because of the pre-disaster investment for risk reductions that we had actually done, you could see here that Typhoon Ondoy in 2009, which account to 62 billion pesos loss of infrastructures, contrary to Typhoon Ulysses in 2020, after the country has adopted the Sendai framework, has been reduced to only 9.8 billion, giving a reduction of about 85% for Metro Manila on flood mitigations. Next slide, please. The flood control projects for DPWS alone, which is actually funded by JICA, have actually 4 projects of this magnitude. Next slide, please. You could see here that the flood risk management project for Cagayan, which is already completed in March 2022, has served tremendously floodings in Cagayan River in the up north Luzon, Tagoloan River in northern Mindanao, and Imus River in southern Luzon. Next slide, please. We have also projects for flood risk management for CDOR, or Cagayan River, that's also in northern Mindanao. That is actually for completion this coming August. Next slide. And another project, the Pasig Marikina Phase 4, which has just started, but this will give a huge benefit in addressing mitigations in the flooding coming from the Marikina River Basin. Next slide, please. We have also the Cavite Industrial Area Flood Management Project, another JICA-funded project of the Japanese government, which has just embarked on its procurement and is successfully being carried out for completions towards 2026. Next year, please. And the most very visible and important project is the Parañaque Spillway Tunnel Project, which will ultimately solve most of the flooding problems we had in the northern Metro Manila, and giving us a huge room on the clogging and giving a big room for water conduit from the mainland of Metro Manila all the way to Manila Bay. Next slide, please. The Davao City Flood Control and Drainage Projects, after several years of undertaking its study and master plan, will now start this coming year. And this is actually one of the 18 major river basins we had for the country. Next slide, please. You could see here that JICA, under Japanese government, has account to a total of 13 projects, 7 for roads, 2 for bridges, and 4 flood control projects. Next slide, please. Also joining us in giving funding is the ADB for some ODA funded projects, which account to 7 projects also. Next slide, please. So that's all for the presentations. Thank you.